In some way, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt, is intimately connected with the phenomenon of the new moon. When we read the Arba Parshas before Pesach, one of the Parshas is Parshas HaChodesh. On one Shabbos, we take out an extra Sefer Torah and we read this description in Parshas about Rosh Chodesh. The question is, why does Rosh Chodesh play such a role in the story of the Yetzias Mitzrayim? Why does Pesach actually start with Rosh Chodesh Nissan? That is the period, the whole of the 15 days from Rosh Chodesh Nissan until Chag HaMatzos, until Pesach, is already a preparation for the celebration of the Chag HaMatzos, of the Exodus. And it is punctuated by the 10th of the month, because on the 10th of the month, the Jews were commanded to take already the Korban Pesach, the animal that would become the Korban Pesach on the 15th, or on the eve of the 15th, on the 14th, and already take it into their houses and bind it to their beds and exercise control over them. These animals were the animals that were revered as gods, as idols by the Egyptians. And the demonstration of slaughtering the holy animal of the Egyptians was another demonstration of a break with Avodah Zarah, a break with idol worship. So this period of 15 days of the waxing moon that goes from the new moon to the full moon is punctuated by this date of the 10th, giving a proportion of 2 to 1, 10 and then 5. 10 and 5 are in a proportion of 2 to 1. It's interesting to note that the entire trajectory of the Jews from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael has the same characteristic of 2 to 1. Because in those days Eretz Yisrael was still called Eretz Canaan. And if you look at the word Mitzrayim, and you add up the value of the letters, you get 380. That's the gematria of the word Mitzrayim. Canaan is 190. It is half of that. So the entire period between the Yetzias Mitzrayim and the entry into the land is a trajectory that goes from 2 to 1, from dualism to unity. Because Mitzrayim, the word Mitzrayim itself, is a very interesting word. Mem Tzadeh Reish Yud Mem. You can read it as Metzorim. Bein HaMetzorim is the name that we give to the weeks between Shavuos of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. It's called Bein HaMetzorim, the 3 weeks. Meitzar means restriction or constriction, when you are hemmed in and you cannot fully develop yourself and fully show what your potential is. That is called Meitzar. And it has also to do with the word Yetzira. Yetzira means to give form to something. A Yetzira is a formation. What actually is being conveyed in this word Mitzrayim is that having a form, having a physical form, being in this body is a constriction. It is for the neshama something that limits its ability. When the neshama is not confined to the body, it is much freer. It exists on a purely spiritual level, and it doesn't have to bother with all the things that you have to take into account when you are embodied, when you are an embodied neshama. The neshama doesn't get diabetes and doesn't suffer from cancer and doesn't die in traffic accidents, and all these things are a result from being embodied. Of course, it's a good thing that we are embodied, because we can use our bodily functions to serve our maker. When the neshama leaves the body, we call that person niftar, meaning he is potur, he is now free from mitzvahs. And Chazal tell us that 1 hour in this world is worth more than the whole of eternity in the presence of God, because there you can't do any mitzvahs, and here you can do mitzvahs. But conversely, 1 hour or 1 moment in the world to come weighs up to the whole of this world, because we have no idea of the spiritual delights that our neshama will experience once it is no longer confined to this body. To serve God which means that the body and the soul cooperate with each other. When you leave Mitzrayim, when you have a Yetzias Mitzrayim, you go out of this misinterpretation of the embodied life, and you go to a life where the body and the soul can, in unity, together serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is expressed by the notion of Chodesh. Chodesh, a month, means Chidush, means renewal. The sun is constant. It doesn't become smaller, it doesn't become larger. It has no potential for growth. The moon grows every month and renews itself every month. In the context of the human embodied life, the months plays an enormous important role as well, because it is the feminine cycle of reproduction. This is not coincidentally directly connected with the moon, with the month. It has exactly that same period. This is called Saut Ho'ibur, the secret of the leap year. To reconcile the solar calendar with the lunar calendar, you have to come to a very intricate set of calculations. Both forms of calendar are well known in the non-Jewish world. The Muslims have a purely lunar calendar. That's why their Ramadan is going through the year and become earlier and earlier every year. And it makes a full cycle. When we have a cycle of 19 years, their Ramadan will return to the same months. The Christian world has adopted the solar calendar because they don't have any notion of renewal. You can see Islam maybe as an extreme on one side and Christianity as an extreme on the other side. We have this very delicate balance between the constancy of the solar year and the renewability of the lunar year. That is called Saut Ho'ibur, and it depends critically on the measurement of the length of 1 month. The length of 1 month is 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 so-called chalokim. One chelek is 3 1/3 second. It is the smallest unit of time that we use in calendar calculations, and as long as you know this value of the length of a month, you can calculate via a set of pretty difficult calculations. You can calculate the luach for next year. You all get your luach from your shul, and if you can't find it on shul, in your shul's publications, you can find it online. But believe you me, to make the calculation is not everybody's job. It is a pretty difficult calculation, pretty intricate calculation. Just as an interesting historical side note, the great physicist and mathematician Sir Isaac Newton, known for his discovery of the universal law of gravity, wrote a commentary on the Rambam's Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, the Rambam's treatise on the calculation of the Jewish calendar. Sir Isaac Newton was very interested on it. He learned Hebrew, of course, as a good educated Cambridge man. He knew Hebrew, so he could read the Rambam, he could read Maimonides, and he wrote an entire commentary on Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, the laws of the sanctification of the new moon. I want to end with a number of extremely interesting gematrias. Those who know me know that I am fond of insightful gematrias. Once I'll go to some greater lengths to explain why I think gematrias are not just a game, but they are a very, very important way of understanding the divine revelation of the Torah. Let's look at the word Chodesh to start with. The word Chodesh is written, when you write it mole, when you write it full, it is Ches, Vav, Dalet, Shin. If you spell out the letters Ches, Vav, Dalet, Shin, Ches, Yud, Tov, Vav, Vav, and then Dalet, Lamet, Tov, Shin, Yud, Nun, and you calculate the gematria, that's so-called the milui of the word Chodesh, spelling every letter as a combination of letters, you get 1224, which is the same gematria as Begaftes Yom Umechze, Betov Shin Tzadek Gimel Chalokim, 29 days, half a day, 12 hours, and 793 Chalokim. Exactly the value of one lunar cycle, spelled out in the word Chodesh. It doesn't stop there. If you take the posuk HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodoshim Rishon Hu Lochem Lechotzei Hashanah, and you take the words after Chodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodoshim Rishon Hu Lochem Lechotzei Hashanah, you calculate the gematria of those words, you get 2341, which is the gematria, with the difference of one, of the following words: Chodesh Ho'echot Kaftes Yom Umechze Ushtei Yodas Sho'on V'ayin Gimel Chalokim. This spells out the length of the lunar cycle in a slightly different Hebrew terminology, using a third measure of time, namely a 20-minute period. 1/3 of an hour is called a yad of the hour. Shtei Yodas is 40 minutes. You take 14 minutes and then add 73 Chalokim, you get your 793 Chalokim exactly. It doesn't stop there, because there is yet another gematria. The entire pasuk together, HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodoshim Rishon Hu Lochem Lechotzei Hashanah, that together is the same gematria as Echot V'Chetzi Yam, 1.5 day, Echot V'Chetzi Yam, Shva Me'aus Tishin U'Shlosha Chalokim, 793 Chalokim. It's exactly the same gematria. And I leave you with one last gematria, which is, I think, amazing. You take the words Dam Tzefadei Akinim, Orav Dever Shchin Borot Arbe Choshech, and Bechorim in the plural, because in Makkos Bechoros is rabbinical language. In Tanakh it's always Bechorim, and it's only Bechoros when it is Smichus, when it is combined. But it's Hamakem Israel Bivchorehem, not Bivchorosehem. So you take these words, Dam Tzefadei Akinim, Orav Dever Shchin Borot Arbe Choshech Bechorim. It adds up to 2448, which is the year of the Yetzias Mitzrayim, about which we read in this week's Sabbath. I wish you good Shabbos.